Hey everybody, it's Thorfinn here, and today I wanted to do a cohesive guide on how to play Gekko and show some of the lineups that I use, as well as just giving you guys a insightful talking point as to exactly how this should work, right? The first thing is you want to take like the second ear on the wingman, which I'm pretty sure is actually his arms, but I just think of it as a second ear. I don't know, I think it's cuter that way. And you line it up with this right here. I'm actually going to change my crosshair for this just so it's easier for you guys to see. Let me go to a green crosshair. Here we go. So you take that, you line it up,
Mosh
and you
Pit!
throw the mosh pit. Now this mosh pit is really useful because it goes into here, and as you can see, it clears the entirety of the left side of Fuka, which means that the only thing you have to do is really
Come on,
throw
little
your
man!
wingman to clear the rest of it. And even then, you can probably use another agent's utility.
There's my
Um,
buddy.
or abilities to clear that side of Fuka. One thing that you can do that I think is really nice as well is throwing the Dizzy to basically take a fight long, and you always have the ability to get it back. Now, obviously, if you want to take fast B-long information and deny anything, one thing that you could do is like if you're facing a harbor, for example, you're going to want to
On my
just
way!
run and jump throw like this, right? It's basically so you beat any utility that would smoke off your Dizzy or anything that would hide info. Now, if we can kind of zoom over here, right? The Dizzy is really only effective towards showers, A short, and B long. So hookah is really not in the cards, right? But one of the Dizzy that you can do to hit the site is pretty easy. You'll see Tex throw a very similar Dizzy to this one. This is the way that I throw it personally. As you can see, it
Careful
clears
here!
these
Careful here!
deep angles. One way that you can throw it as well, that I've started to sort of mess around with to see like how effective it is throwing it sort of wide this way. Um, Now, personally, I don't think this is the best Dizzy for sight, but I think what it does
Careful
well
here!
is it clears the lamps corner, it
Careful
clears
here!
front sight, it clears top truck for oppers, which is pretty important, as well as gets back sight, but it doesn't really get anything congregated towards the shower side, which is why I think Gekko isn't the best for sort of coming out of short, right? Because I think going through shower is a lot better. Obviously, you can throw a
On
Dizzy
my
where
way!
it's just like this, right? And it clears the entirety of front sight. But what you really can do is if you jump throw, it'll clear the entirety of sight if it's up here, essentially, right? So throwing the Dizzy high, like most flashes, is going to be effective. But with the Dizzy, you don't have to worry about flashes being too far away. If you guys don't know, flashes in Valorant, if they're far enough away, they won't full blind you because they're sort of you're out of a radius essentially. So with Dizzy, you don't have to worry about that. It just insta full blinds you. It's the reason why Rain of Blind is a lot better than people actually give it credit for. Is at super far ranges on like Icebox and Breeze, it can full blind you. Now the flash I'm talking about is this one. I mean, it's pretty easy. You don't really need a lineup for it, but it's really nice. It
Careful
clears
here!
all of this. It
Careful
clears
here!
anything coming out spawn. This comboed with like a Brim ult, lamps here, or U-Haul, whichever one you want to call it, I think is really good because you blind the guy coming out of sight. And I actually have a strat for that where you use a mosh pit, you line here, and you line up here, and
Saw
you
you,
jump throw,
Mosh!
and the mosh pit will land all the way back here towards spawn, right? And essentially cut off the spawn rotate. So you throw the mosh pit, you immediately, you have to have shower control, obviously, but you throw the mosh pit, you run up, you
Dizzy's up!
flash, and then you ult. Right, because you brim ult, it'll push
I
the
got
guy's
you, I
back
got you.
sight. The back sight guys will get blind by the Dizzy
Careful
as they
here!
run out of lamps, right? If he is in U-Haul. Probably not going to want to do this at the start of the round because it's pretty obvious. But if you do it late rounds, I think it could actually work really well. It gets this
Careful
guy,
here!
blinds him, and
Careful
if he
here!
tries to run away, he gets hit by the mosh pit. Whether it's going to kill him or not is really not the point. It also just stops people from flooding as well. There's another mosh pit that you can throw for spawn to essentially stop a flood, which is you come over here where you normally throw the A short one, and you just line up with this leaf,
Blow him up,
and you
Mosh!
jump throw. This is a nice little molly. It sort of gets this area. It's not really
Careful
flush
here!
with this, but it clears it out. You can also slightly throw it to the left, and it sort of finds what you want, right? If you obviously if you throw
Mosh
it here,
Pit!
for example, it's going to be more towards spawn, like this, right? Um, Also, you can come here and molly back triple if you just aim right here,
Saw you,
jump
Mosh.
throw. It goes all the way to back triple. Boom, right? Decent. And as you can see, huge radius. Now, there's one mosh pit that I think you have to know, and it's the stacks mosh pit. This mosh pit, I was trying to find the lineup for it forever because I tinkered around with it. And if anyone knows how bind was played, FNS basically revolutionized how bind was played due to a Viper molly that would hit
Careful here.
tube and vulnerable you if you're inside tube. So this is really the only part of sight that really denies any chance of just hard hitting a site and steamrolling over it is this tube. So if you can't play inside this tube, there's a lot of places where it's just easily like like Brim
Careful here.
Molly,
Careful here.
Raisinade, right? Like a Viper
Careful here.
Molly, you know what I'm saying? There's a lot of things that can clear out areas besides
here.
in tube, right? So finding a mosh pit for this is super important, as well as it insta kills you if you stay through the whole durability. So as long as you pace up the hit, so all you have to do is aim the right click, right, the right click box, aim the corner onto here, and then you
Going
just
up,
throw,
Mosh.
and it will come over, it'll land. As you can see, it hits the entirety of the so yeah, this is super good. Whether it's a bug or meant to be in the game, I don't know. But yeah, no, it's insane. It's just gonna do so much damage. Whether it's gonna just kill somebody if they sit in tube, right? And if you throw a molly
Careful here.
here, you throw a molly
Careful
here,
here.
and you raise nade backside, they really have nowhere else to play. And retaking B is super difficult. Now, on the defense, right? There's a lot of things that you can do that I think are very, very good. One thing is over here in shower. One thing that like throwing it through this is super good, right? Because
Up and away.
it allows you to get your gun out by the time you peek, and it clears anyone inside of the shower, right? So if they like to fast take and they like to like raise satchel up and flash, you can basically play anti here, throw your flash, and then as soon as their flash goes off, you can come and swing with it. As well as you can throw the dizzy through these, which is really neat, spicy.
You did good.
But I think Gekko kind of replaces Sky, so a lot of the times you're going to be positioning yourself over towards B long, right? So to get B long information, you can kind of do a multitude of things, right? If you want to get super deep B long information, you can run, jump, throw the dizzy, and you can get it back relatively safe. I mean, if it clears somebody down here, right? Personally, I partner up if I want to do this, but most of the time you can set him up for trap plays. So one play that my team does, because we play double initiator, double controller on this map, so we play Brim Viper, Raise, Breach, and Gekko. So essentially what we do, right, is I sit here ready to throw a flash, right? And then my Breach sits here and just holds the stun for long. And essentially, like off of audio cue or utility, will stun and flash. And a stun and a flash really just makes it super hard for anyone to really come up this space. But mainly, if you want to just get like nice info, right, and you want to play towards Octagon and fight, right, boom. If you want to be ready to fight off the dizzy, all right, it comes back. But if you just want info, I would just tuck in here and just jump throw. It clears the entirety of long.
Sana, sana.
One thing that you can do with hookah as well, which is pretty interesting, is essentially you can fast fight out of mid,
Up and away.
right?
You did good.
Which is pretty nice. One thing that you can do that I think is very effective is essentially jump spot with the mosh pit. Right? The reason why I find this effective is you can just throw it here, and it's super hard for them to come out, right? They can't drop on you while that mosh pit is there, especially towards the end of the lifetime, right? Like if you catch them just entering and you think they're gonna fast hit you, you can just boom, you can throw it. It covers the entirety of this drop down area. And in Octagon, I haven't found like the perfect way to do this, but it covers pretty much the whole thing. So if you feel like someone's trapped,
Pit.
like right side or left, you just throw it in there, right? Like they have to stay here. So if you throw it
Saw you, Mosh.
here, even, like that clears the entirety of Octagon. It's just because the Molly is so big, right? And because it does chip damage, right? A Viper vulnerable combos really well with it because it doubles that chip damage and makes it actually decently effective at just denying people from running through it, but just pretty much catching people inserting and into pockets. And what I mean by pockets is like front U-Haul, for example. Like you'll have a Viper wall here, you'll have a Viper smoke, and then if no one's holding this, boom, right? Like the Viper gets tucked here. Like you can essentially just
Blow him up, Mosh.
and clear her out, right? It denies it. Also, like just denying a bomb plant is super good, right? Like you can throw this. It denies the entirety of the shower plant, right? You can drop here and, you know, just run throw off, and it can deny the entirety of the truck plant. So there's a lot of things that you can do to deny plants as well as like just stall, right? With this huge radius, because there's a lot of these big like open spots where it's super hard to confine a team to plant in a specific spot or to deny a plant in general because mollies usually aren't this big.
Blow him up,
Because the
Mosh.
mosh pit is that big, it can deny. Look at that. Like, they just can't plant. So, it's one thing that I think is super effective with this. Also, another thing is just like the TP, right? I think everyone knows TPs are good. Like,
Dizzy's up.
his entire kit
Get him, wingman. Mosh
can be
pit.
thrown through the TP,
Saw you, little
including
homie.
his ult. Which, one thing that you can really do is just like have someone pressure shower, right? And then just wait for your ult. And as soon as I see anyone in this vicinity, you can literally jump through and ult the guy and instantly just detain anyone that's right here. As well as, again,
Saw you, Mosh.
a molly, right? I'm not sure it works. It's the same thing for this, but obviously this is less safe. Unless you do it here, right? Which the Thrash has enough,
We're going to get
right?
him.
Like if you
Thrash
combo
ready.
with a breach stun, which is what we do, you can get super deep in there. I kind of fucked it up, but basically, like, that's why I like Gekko and Breach together, is because all of Gekko's utility is meant to be shot, right? And when they're stunned, they can't shoot as fast. So for the Thrash, right, trying to detain someone that's stunned is a lot easier than someone who has a gun, right? Because normally in this long distance area, you'd be able to just spam the Thrash, right? But if they're stunned here, if we have like our Breach playing towards spawn and playing retake on
Right
B,
there.
he's
Right
stunned, right? And then these guys can only shoot one bullet at the Thrash, and the Thrash will just speed up and just pretty much insta-kill them. Well, it doesn't kill them, obviously, but it sets them up for essentially failure, right? And also you can just throw the Mosh Pit through the TP, which is pretty decent. I mean, it's not going to be as effective as just playing on B, which is where Gekko most likely is going to play. But
Blow him up, Mosh.
Gekko is just really good for setting up like reactive trap plays. Now, what that means is essentially kind of like using his utility as like a second piece of utility, right? Like a piece of utility that needs to be set up to reach its maximum potential, which, like I said, stuns are my preferred way to do it, but also just comboing flashes as well. Because essentially what happens is let's say you're breach flashing
Careful
out
here.
here, right? And let's say this guy gets caught rotating, right? Normally, right, like a really good player would be able to turn this breach flash and then immediately turn back and get ready to kill you, right? Now, if you combo the flash with the dizzy, which is how I think it should be used, it gets info, right? But it also blinds this guy as he turns. So he turns from the breach flash and still gets blind because it doesn't matter if you are turned or not. If it's in the air and it's not shot, it will full blind you. So I think that's probably the best way and the way that I try to use the dizzy on sight hits because just comboing it with things is super important. I think Gekko is like the perfect secondary controller. I think he can be a initiator. I think he can be a good solo initiator, but I think comboing his utility with other pieces of utility to guarantee its effectiveness is just super good. And in high levels of play, that's a lot easier, right? In ranked, probably not as easy. Like in ranked, people probably aren't going to play breach as much. But you can still do it with other flashes, like Sky or even like a Reyna blind, right? Because it's just you can't see the Dizzy with the Reyna blind. We have been experimenting with our Icebox comp because we're not great at Icebox. So trying to find a comp that's comfortable for us, as well as just a good composition is kind of hard. But one of the thought processes that I had was playing Reyna and Gekko, right? Because you really don't need a movement utility on Icebox because of the way it's played. It's because the movement ability just gets counteracted by the amount of mollies just sent onto the bomb site, right? Or in A, like you just don't need it because you have the zip line, as well as just the way this site's designed. It's just super easy to isolate 1v1 fights. You don't need to like break into a site per se. So like a Reyna blind going up, it blinds anyone looking at it, right? And if they try to shoot it, they're still just not going to hit the Dizzy, right? So the Dizzy can get its guaranteed value. So things like that. Now, this video is really long, so those of you who stayed till the end, I appreciate it. Obviously, I'm not going to show every nitty-gritty lineup, but I'm giving you guys insight as well as the most important lineups that I think you should know, um, and the insight of me knowing what I'm talking about, right? So, I hope you guys enjoyed. Please leave a like and subscribe. I know it's not edited, it's not super fast-paced, it's very slow and informational, but I wanted to get everything across. If you guys don't like this style of video, please just comment below, right? If you're just like, hey, this video, the quality of the content is shit, but the quality of the information is good. Just let me know that. I'm down for constructive criticism. I want to be good at this. So, yeah, subscribe, leave a like, comment, and yeah, use this in your ranked games in whatever games you're playing, Premiere, and have a fantastic day, guys.